Once you locate the fish steelheading, they usually hit anything. The biggest problem after that is trying to keep them on the hook. Today I'm going to tie you up a traditional pattern. It's called the red and blue butcher. Make sure you have these materials ready before you tie the fly. For the hook, we're going to use a size 4 steelhead hook, some 6/0 red thread to tie with, some red bucktail as the tail, some silver tinsel for the body, some blue bucktail as the wing, and some red and blue hackle as the hackle. To start the fly off, I've taken my red thread and tied on a good base layer. Now I've taken a nice clump of my red bucktail. I'm going to measure it up about, say, a quarter of the length of the hook and tie it in for the tail. We want it fairly short. You don't want a long tail on this pattern. The next step to the fly is take a strand of your silver tinsel, and I like to use the medium or fairly thick silver tinsel because we do have to wrap up the body, and tie it in right back to the hook shank, and then wrap forward to form the body. And again, it really doesn't matter which end of the tinsel comes up, whether it's silver or gold. We just like either the silver or gold body. Both of them work quite well. Now that the body's tied in, I'm going to take a clump of my blue bucktail. I'm going to measure it back so it extends just past our red tail, and then tie it in near the head and form a wing on the pattern. Now that the wing's tied in, we want to create a couple of hackle collars on the fly. I'm going to start with my red hackle. I'm going to tie it in, again, just behind the wing, and take about 2 to 3 wraps of your hackle. You don't want a lot of hackle there, just a couple of wraps, probably 2 to 3, and tie it off. And then what I'm going to do is take my thread and just wind it slightly over the hackle to form a collar, just to help push that hackle back on the fly. The next step to the fly is to select the blue hackle. Now it's very important when you're selecting this blue hackle to make sure that it is bigger than the red hackle you just put on, because you want some overlap, and you want that blue hackle to extend a little bit higher and a little bit further than the red hackle you put in. So I'm tying it in. It is a little bit bigger than the red one. And I'm just going to again take 2 or 3 wraps just to form a blue collar on the fly. And tie it off near the eyelet. And always give yourself room near the eye. You want a nice red head on this fly at the end. Now I'm going to take my thread and again do the same thing, just push it back onto my blue hackle so that it flares back slightly. To finish the fly off, take your red thread and continue to build up a nice head on the pattern and taper it slightly. Once you have a nice red head built, do a quick whip finish, cut off your excess thread, trim it off, and then a lot of times I like to finish with a red lacquer. So this is a good addition to the pattern, is just red lacquer that head to finish it off. And there it is, the finished red and blue butcher. You know, most of the time I don't fish traditional patterns, but when the water is clear and the fish are finicky, this is one of my go-to patterns.